everyone, welcome to another video for assignmentsstamp.com. Today I'm using this stamp from the Greeting Farm. This is the Tuesday Cling stamp, and I'm going to be stamping it on some Express It blending card. This is a special cardstock for Copic coloring, and I'm stamping it in Memento Tuxedo Black ink. Now this is going to go super fast because I didn't want to make you guys watch it, minute by minute. So if you're looking for the Copic colors I'm using, they're going to be in the top left corner of your screen. So I started out by coloring her skin, and I did the lightest color first and then started adding in the darker colors and went over the darker colors with the lighter color to make it all blend together. So after I finished coloring in all of her skin tone, I decided I would go ahead and start coloring her hair. Now I'm using all brunette colors. I believe these colors all come in the brunette blending kit, but I started with the lightest color and I marked in the areas where I wanted the highlights to be on the hair. When you're coloring curly hair like this, take cues from the stamp set, like where there's a curve or a bend in the hair, that's where you're going to have a highlight. So I started by doing the highlights first, and then I brought in the next darkest color, and from here on out I'm only going to be doing like a section at a time because I want to make sure that I can get the colors to blend. So I started at the top of her head and went down the one side, and I brought in the medium colors, and then as soon as I bring in the darkest color, that's when it really comes to life. So when you're coloring hair on stamped images, or even if you make your own drawing, make sure that you include some of the darkest points and also the lightest points, especially on hair. That's how you're going to get the really glossy, healthy looking hair. So I'm going around on the other side and pulling in the darker areas, and then I'll bring in the lighter one to blend it a little bit, and then the darkest color as well. I'm not being super precise as I'm coloring her hair, but I am making sure that the direction that I kind of flick the marker is in the direction that her hair would be going. So after I finished her hair, I decided I should go ahead and color her crown. Later I'm going to be putting some glitter on top of the crown, but I did want a little bit of shading before I move on to the rest of the image because that shading will show through the glitter. So for her dress, I wanted it to mount to this pattern paper. This pattern paper is from American Crafts, and you'll see the 6x6 pad in a little bit that it comes from. So I was just testing out different pink colors, trying to figure out what would go best with that pattern paper. And these are the three colors that I kind of fell upon. Now, the darkest pink and the medium pink don't blend well, so you'll notice I'm touching the tip of the lightest pink to the darker one, and that just helps pull those colors together. It doesn't ruin your lighter one because you're going to go ahead and color it out of the marker. Used BG10 to put in a little bit of coloring on the little fluffy underskirt of her dress, and now I'm going to color her boots. I did the lightest color first, the next lightest, the medium dark, and then the darkest, and then went over it with the lightest color to kind of blend them all together. I wasn't too careful about going outside the edges on this particular stamp because I knew I would be cutting it out. So even though it does look pretty clean, there are some areas that I went outside the edges, but I didn't really worry about it because I knew I'd be cutting it out eventually. So now we're back to normal speed, and I'm just going to cut around all the edges, being pretty careful. And then to finish it off, to make it look absolutely perfect, as if I had cut it out, absolutely perfect, I'm taking a black Copic multi-liner marker and going around the edges. Now, you're going to want to use a marker that has a brush tip, and you're also going to want to use a marker that's not going to smear your Copic coloring. The Copic multi-liners are meant to be used for sketching and drying out, so they will not blend with the usual Copic markers like the sketch markers or the chow. The multi-liners are permanent. They will not smear with your coloring. I'm using some candy bar cardstock from Basil, and I just folded it over with the Teflon bone folder, and I like to use that bone folder to kind of smooth out the fold as well. So the pattern paper that I'm using is from American Crafts. This is from their Soho Garden collection. It's a really fun, bright collection. I thought after all of the autumn and Halloween and even into the Christmas cards, we might want a little bit of a different color palette. So that's what prompted me to use this pattern paper in particular. And I cut out the flower pattern to be slightly smaller than the front of the card. And then I cut a strip of the stripe paper. I cut it out a diagonal so that it would be a little bit more interesting. And then I cut little tiny strips of the red pattern to put on the top and bottom of the diagonal stripes. So the stamp that I'm using today is from Hero Arts, and I'm going to have my sentiment say happy birthday, but I don't want to use the happy that's on this particular stamp. So since it's a clear stamp, I'm actually cutting it apart. No worries about cutting your stamps apart because you can always mount them back together. That's the beauty of a clear stamp. So I'm using some Memento Rich Cocoa ink. I could have used Tuxedo Black, but I wanted to bring out the brown in the girl's hair and then also the brown card base. So I thought this brown would go pretty well with that. And I did a little test run to make sure that it was good. To get a good V-shaped cut, you can always do one vertical cut to get it in the center and then bring in the cuts from the corners. That's one way to make sure that you get a perfect V-cut on the end of your paper. By the way, this is daffodil layering paper from Hero Arts. And now I have a die cut. This is from Simon Says Stamp. This is from the Oh Happy Day die cut or die, and I just only use the word happy, and I'm applying some glue to the very bottom edge, the bottom loops of the letters, because I'm going to have it overlap the yellow strip of cardstock, and it's just going to be hanging off that top edge. And I didn't want a bunch of adhesive all over it, so I only put it on those bottom loops that would be touching the yellow. So I adhered the pattern paper to the card. Those are all just straight on the card. And then I'm putting this yellow strip with the word happy. I'm putting that on some foam dimensional adhesive. After I applied that to the card, I just trimmed off the end because it was a little bit too long. And then I'm going to start adhering the girl to the card. She, because she was going to be kind of straddling that yellow strip, I knew that I would only need some foam adhesive on the very top, so under her head, and then on the very bottom, which would be underneath her boots. So I cut the foam adhesive small enough to be put on the back of her boots, and I put one full piece on the back of her head. And then, you know, after I had that on her very carefully, I adhered that down. Just to note, I did use some glitter stickles on her crown and also on the underside of her dress to add a little bit of glitter. I also went around the outside edge of the pattern paper area with a white gel pen. This is the Uniball Signo Broad white gel pen. It's my absolute favorite. And that finishes the card for today. Hope you guys enjoyed, and I will catch you guys next time. Thanks for watching.